Okay, approval of minutes.
I move we approve the minutes.
The minutes from July be accepted as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Minute approved. Okay, Karen, why don't you move us into new business and explain what we're doing?
Our first item
And
on
be sure to let Terry know that I waited. I've never, you've always been here.
I'm really sorry, I'm usually late. Our first item under new business is our annual assessment of the audit committee and making sure, basically auditing the audit committee to make sure that the bylaws have been followed for the previous fiscal year. This assessment that we do just basically takes each bylaw and looks at the work that was done. So for this fiscal year, that would be from July of 2020 to June of 2021. And making sure that we met the requirements and that the audit committee followed those bylaws that are required. This includes things such as posting agendas, posting the minutes, overseeing the external audit and the work of the external auditors, making sure that my performance assessment was done and all those little pieces. As you can see from the assessment in the workbook, all expectations were met. There were no areas where the audit committee failed to meet any of the requirements. And so if y'all want to look through that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
This is good. We usually have one or two that we forgot. So thank you. This is obviously a staff keeping track of what we need to be doing. So thank you. There's no vote on that, right?
There's no vote on it.
Unless we have any questions. And we'll leave this on in case you want to look at it, bring it up next time. If you have any questions. With that, we'll move on to the next item.
Next, we have the Metropolitan Nashville Audit Committee bylaws and the Office of Internal Audit bylaws. These are reviewed annually by the Audit Committee, and changes are made as needed. If there's any suggestions for different wording, they're both included in the workbook. As you'll see, we'll start with the Audit Committee. The last change to these bylaws was made back in July, and that was the addition of recommending that Audit Committee members seek CJIS clearance within the first 3 months of serving on the committee. So that's included under the other responsibilities piece of it now. But that is the only change that's been made to the Audit Committee's bylaws within the past year or two. The Office of Internal Audit's bylaws, which follows those Audit Committee bylaws, hasn't had any changes in quite a while. Last year there was some discussion about making some adjustments around the recommendation implementation policy changes that we've made. The decision was made not to adjust the bylaws, but instead just make that at a internal policy level. So no changes were made to that last year. So if there's any changes that anybody has or suggestions, I'm happy to take them down and put them together to present at the next meeting.
Since this is probably new to half the committee, I think it'd be proper just to kind of let people understand. We'd like to review these, and then if you have any comments or questions, we can just put it and make them next time. As far as the certification goes, the certification, which is important, but at one point in time, it was discussed about being required. And after legal, this committee is unique in that by charter, we all get put on this committee, well, by charter. It's not like a normal committee where the mayor's office recommends and the council approves. We have council members that are elected by charter. We have vice mayors elected by the people, and that's by charter. And then Tom, he comes from the Tennessee Society of CPAs with no strings attached. You don't have to be a CPA. You don't even have to be a member. And then I come from the Chamber of Commerce. And that keeps the committee independent. So it could be a recommendation, but it can't be a requirement. Now, I believe that the Director of Finance will be asked to be certified under this, not from our perspective, just from the office itself, but we don't control that. Is that something? So, anyway, just
I mean, I'm not aware of it being a specific legal requirement in the charter or anything like that for the Director of Finance, but it may be something that Ms. Flannery.
A best practice or something.
Yeah, it may be something just to have access to everything that you want to have access to if you want to do.
Yeah, and so we did a really thorough, and thank you for that review on Friday. So I've completed the paperwork, but not submitted it.
Well, that's your day job, okay? I'm just letting you know with the committee, and again, you know, by charter, your role put you on this committee. And at one point in time, it was just some ad hoc members because it actually reported up through the finance director. Okay, so we'll leave these bylaws open. If you have any questions or comments, we can address them and just keep it on the agenda for the next couple of times. Okay.
Guess I'm up next. Good afternoon. It's good to be with everybody today. Our office completed an audit of the police department selected revenue streams. Very quickly, like to recognize Samir Mahid. He's with the police department. He's brought with him Cheryl Kenderdine and Lieutenant Stevens. They were great to work with during this audit. We appreciate the help that we received. But this was just a good old-fashioned revenue cycle audit. This is where we're looking at, okay, are you collecting all the revenue that you should be collecting? Are you properly tracking it, monitoring it, properly safeguarding your revenues? And what you did, you had 9 different, we did not look at grants. That's a totally different beast. So we're looking at non-grant revenue streams. During the 2-year period that we looked at, there were 9 different non-grant revenue streams. We did a risk assessment on them. We looked at 3 of them. They brought in about $18 million during that 2-year period. Now, one thing, if you'll note, we made a mistake on when we sent the report out. We put the wrong chart in the report. Apologize about that. We appreciate you guys. But they brought in actually $18 million in that 2-year period. The 3 areas that we looked at was, the first was secondary employment. That's where, let's say you need traffic control, you're a church on Sunday morning and you're letting people out, you need traffic control, or a convention, like a bachelorette convention, you have, different types, you need traffic control or extra security. That's the bulk of the money that they bring in. The second thing we looked at was they have a memorandum of understanding with the MDHA where they're providing additional patrols. That was the second revenue stream we looked at. And then the third was photostats, which is what it sounds like where you're making copies. What we looked at represented about 75% of their revenue streams. There's one confiscated cash, which we identified as high risk. We will go back out there at some point. We thought that a lot of tentacles to that, just inherently high risk whenever you're dealing with confiscated cash. So that'll be one we'll probably give it its own tender love and care. Also, I forgot, forgive me, Jim Carson, he was in charge on the audit. He did all the work, so thank you, Jim. Didn't mean to get you there. Basically, Jim went out there. He did his work. Everything worked the way it was supposed to, what you'd expect. The only issue that we had to deal with the microfilm, where the deposit, there's a rule that the deposits have to be in or recorded in the general ledger within a certain time, and they were a little late on that one. But other than that, it was pretty clean. That's the only recommendation we had, and that's been accepted. And that's pretty much it. There's your high-level review of the report. We're open to any questions that you have.
Any questions? Okay.
Next up, we have the audit of the Metropolitan Public Defender's Office. This audit was on our audit plan just due to the importance of the work that the Public Defender's Office does.
Yes.
As well as we haven't been out to the Public Defender's Office since 2010. So we wanted to go back out there and kind of check some of the different things that they do. The scope of our audit was a 2-year period from January of 2019 to December of 2020. We looked to make sure that there were processes and controls in place, first and foremost, to make sure that the highest level of services were provided to the population that the Public Defender's Office serves. And next, we wanted to look that there were controls and processes in place to make sure that staff were properly trained and certified to provide those services that are so important. We also look to make sure that the information related to those cases is properly secured. And lastly, just looking at some of the time tracking and leave time recording that was within the office to make sure that that was properly done. What we found was there was actually a lot of great documented policies and procedures in place. They made sure that the software was permissions were well granted to lease permissions. They made sure that their staff was properly trained and certified. We only had 2 observations, one being a medium risk observation around the caseload. The Tennessee standards in place that are used to determine what the maximum caseload should be for a section is based on the number of employees. When we did this calculation, we found that the general sessions section of the public defender's office was over for 2019 by about 700 cases. The risk there being that if you have too many cases, you may not serve your clients as well as you could. But we also noticed that that study was done in 1999. And this is a Tennessee state standard that the courts use. It's not something that the public defender's office chooses to go by. So we had 2 recommendations related to this. One is that they needed to make sure that they had more oversight over the caseloads. Somebody should be watching to make sure when they start to approach that standard that maybe some safeguards should be put in place to make sure that that service is still being done. We had looked at complaints and other things, so they had processes in place, but they didn't have a defined process around the caseloads. Also, we made the recommendation that they request a new study. A lot has changed since 1999, and a lot is on the horizon even for the Public Defender's Office with certain things that are coming up. With a new study, they could use those caseload standards to possibly request more staff, to request for courts to maybe not assign them as many cases or have stricter constraints on that. But it needs to be done by the state first, and so we recommended that they push for that. And then the last observation that we had was a low-risk observation around leave time. This is, we just found some discrepancies between what they had recorded for individuals in the office and what was like in their 2 separate recording systems. The recommendation just being to automate it a little bit more and to utilize a system such as Chronos, which is usually the Metro standard for what they do in departments. All 3 recommendations that we had were accepted, with implementation dates estimated to be approximately September of 2022. Some of it may take time, especially with requesting caseload standards to be changed. Unfortunately, Public Defender Johnson is going to be here around 4:30, and I think we went a little faster than we expected. But she was a great help on this case, as was our senior auditor, Nan Nguyen. If there are any questions about this audit, please let me know. Yes.
I was going to ask, how do you actually measure the effectiveness of the complaints? When the complainants come in, how can you measure
What
that?
we did was we made sure that they had a process around it. Is it not just that they're ad hoc and somebody calls in and asks or complains about somebody who's been assigned to their case? And the Public Defender's Office they continue to keep a log of them, as well as it's evaluated by individuals that are not just on the case, and so supervisors are looking at them to make sure that they're addressed if there's multiple complaints. A lot of times people are calling in, and it's something that can easily be discussed with the person, but they do have a process. If there's so many complaints, that then they will take that and they will possibly reassign somebody. They'll work with the different situations.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
Okay. Our next audit is the audit of property standards complaints process. This audit was on our audit plan, not just because property standard complaints is an important function of Metro, but also because Councilmember Mendez actually recommended this one. When we send out our annual request for recommendations, this was one that he requested or recommended, just based on some information he had gotten from constituents and questions and concerns that he had gotten. So we thought we would take a look at this process to make sure there's processes and controls in place for when complaints are received, how are they investigated and tracked, and then all the way to resolution, as well as how are they communicated with with both the complainant and the property owner. Are there processes and controls in place to make sure that that communication is timely? We looked at a 2-year period from April of 2019 to March of 2021. And what we found was there were processes in place for receiving complaints, investigating them, and resolving them, but there were some areas where they could improve. Our first observation was around the notification, or actually communications with the property owners. A lot of times where the process was stalling was when they were trying to communicate with property owners. There's certain requirements of how they communicate with property owners, such as sending the notification via mail or serving the warrant in person. Unfortunately, there's things that get in the way of that. Sometimes the mail is returned. Sometimes the mail has been very slow. People move without changing their addresses, but they're still the property owner, but they're renting out their house. Or sometimes you have P.O. boxes, and you can't serve a warrant to a P.O. box. So this kind of slows the process down. They have a process as far as how many times they will, or how they will try to notify, and then they will try to find an alternate address. But sometimes these things aren't documented, as well as sometimes they will sit. If they try to serve it twice, then they may not go back after that. And so the complaints sit, and that means that the complainant may think nothing is being done, when in fact a process has started to happen, but unfortunately it's just kind of stalled. So our 3 recommendations related to that one observation are that first, that they document a process for actually going back and looking at those that have stalled. Maybe trying to follow up on them and trying to see if there's an alternate, or wait a few months and then somebody goes back out and tries to serve the warrant again, or they try to communicate again. The second being that they should, I lost my train of thought. The second recommendation being that there's an actual formal process for trying to find an alternate address. They are not Codes is not the only place that has to find alternate addresses for people. For instance, clerk and master has to do it with delinquent taxes. So documenting a process, documenting opportunities to possibly find those alternate addresses, and working with metro departments and leveraging what they have found to work and not work. And lastly, if the method of talking or serving these warrants or notifications is really stalling out the process, then explore working with legislators to actually get it changed. If there's a more efficient way to do it but still reach the population, then to explore that with the council, or whether it's the state or metro. Our next observation was the cases that were just sitting open. In some of our sampling, we found that some cases didn't have a targeted date. And the system, that is what is supposed to cue somebody to go out and follow up on an investigation or a complaint. Unfortunately, some of the cases that we looked at had been sitting there for quite a while. There was no formal process to check for these. If there was any with no targeted date, maybe if we had a supervisor go back and look and ran a report or something like that to check on these. So that was our recommendation related to that one. Our third observation was the initial investigation of complaints. I believe on the website there's just stated we try to get to investigate complaints within a few days. But there was no documented goal. Because of that, sometimes it would take 6 or more days, up to 16 days to investigate a complaint. And thinking about the complainant side of this, where they want to make sure that something actually happens. And so we would recommend that they look at making sure that there is a documented goal and there's somebody overseeing that, looking at cues to make sure that people aren't falling behind on the investigations. They have floaters within this department, so if there's floaters who can help out in certain areas because somebody has fallen behind. And our last observation is about communication with the public. The great thing about Hub Nashville is if somebody submits a complaint through Hub Nashville and puts in their information, they can get updates throughout the process. They'll get an email or notification saying when the process is moving along. Unfortunately, only 35% of the complaints go through Hub Nashville, so that means 65% are coming through emails, phone calls, and other methods. that have no communication that follows them because the person that receives them is entering them directly into CityWorks, which is what cues the investigator to go out, but it means that the person who's made the complaint won't have any follow-up. And without that communication, once again, you have frustrated citizens who want to know what's going on, and from their perspective, they don't see any movement. So we would recommend, one, just pushing out more and trying to get citizens to use CityWorks more. Codes has done a great job of trying that already, but just continue to do that. As well as from the internal process, have those staff members that are receiving the phone calls and the other complaints, have them enter them directly into Hub Nashville instead of CityWorks, so that at least people who provide contact information can get updates. So those were our 4 observations that came out with 8 recommendations. All 8 were accepted. 5 of them, I believe, have already been implemented, with the other 3 that will be done within the end of the year. And with us today, we have the Director of Codes, Bill Herbert, as well as the Assistant Director of Property Standards, Bill Penn, and then the Audit Senior for this project, Laura Henry. So are there any questions on this one?
Yeah, I guess for the goals that have already been completed, the ones where you're encouraging callers to use the hub and register complaints, how are you actually doing that? Or how have you done that since it's already done?
You go back.
I'll answer.
Okay.
So when people, lots of times they'll come into the office to make a complaint or they'll call in. What we're doing is we're encouraging, if they're comfortable, we're encouraging that we explain to them what the hub does and then how you can get follow-up communications. And that if they're comfortable entering it into the hub themselves, we encourage them to do that. If they want our assistance in helping them enter it into the hub, we will help them do that. If they're insistent and just say, no way, no how, I'm here to make a complaint and I want it made now, then we'll go ahead and enter it into CityWorks. But we really try to push them towards using the hub. And we explain to them that they're able to get follow-up that way if they'll utilize the hub. So we really push that.
Is there a way to get them to the hub before they trek all the way down to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Still at home?
Yes, no, it's all over the Nashville.gov. It's all over the codes website. There's anybody that does any type of investigation at all will immediately see that if you want to file a complaint on anything, not just code stuff, but anything at all, you can enter that through the hub. It will then go, it'll be directed to the mayor's office, who will then take that and direct that complaint or inquiry to the appropriate department.
Do you have an automatic follow-up on situations, say for instance, especially when there are repeated violations. For instance, you have cars that park in the wrong place and you address it and they move the cars out and 2 weeks later they start doing it again. Is there any way that you can go back and automatically follow up, or do you have something in place? Because I think that occurs often.
Absolutely. And we try to use the repeat violators portion of our code in order to deal with those kinds of situations. That way we can forego the abatement process. We don't have to do that. We can go straight to a civil warrant. And we use that quite effectively, especially against some of our not so, I hate to use the term slumlord, but it is what it is. And so especially in those situations where they continue to violate the code over and over again, we have used that statute to get them immediately into environmental court, and that has helped in some situations.
So is it a monthly, weekly, or do you do it quarterly, or is it a rotation that you utilize in order to accommodate those types of complaints?
Well, generally what happens is if the inspector in making inspections in the territory observe a repeat situation, they'll deal with that. Otherwise, when those come on the daily report where someone turns in something, we go up, that's that guy again, then we will deal with it that way. It's a little challenging to go back on all of these that may fall into that category simply because of the volume of situations that may fall into that category. So we sort of try to depend on the system when we get a request to evaluate, look at it immediately, and we can tell whether or not that request has come in before, because you get a list of all of the requests that have come in. And a lot of times the inspector, as soon as they see that address, they know, okay, yep, I've been out there for that again. And that's kind of how we've been handling that, because especially in the spring and the summertime of the year, with high grass and weeds, junk trash and debris and all those things, it is a little challenging to go back on those that have been habitual, because they're not always habitual. Sometimes they'll do it a month later, sometimes they'll do it 6 months later, sometimes they'll go a year before they get broken again. And so, but we do try to catch those, and inspectors are proactive in a lot of situations. They have areas of their territory that they know, hey, this is a problematic area, and while I'm close to it, I'm going to swing through there and take a look, and invariably they'll identify something.
That's the point that I was going to make. Our inspectors have specific areas. They know their areas. And so when there's a repeat offender, they're through the area all the time. If they see it, they can self-initiate the complaint at that time.
Do you have enough inspectors?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. But that just flew out. I don't know how.
I'll second that, no.
So are you, because you said self-initiate, so are inspectors making like regular rounds, or is it just if they're going out on a complaint and they see something, they may self-initiate?
They generally are operating based on complaints that have turned in. That's probably 80%, 70 to 80% of what they do. But obviously when they go out, if 100 Oak Street is a train wreck and they look up the street and they see 108 is also a train wreck, they're not going to not get that one. So they will pick up cases. But I have to caution, because sometimes they get a little zealous. It's easy to pick up things and put them in the system, but then the follow-up is what can kill you. If you get too many going at one time, then getting back for the rechecks and then getting the court cases, because we do all of our orders and things like that ourselves. Those aren't handled by Metro Legal, so there's a lot of paperwork associated with what we do, and so you have to really manage your time and be very organized. If you're not organized, you'll be underwater. But they are proactive.
Yeah, well, it just seems to me, prevention is the best solution. And if they have to go out when they get a call, then if they were all automatically going on a round, then that would avoid the citizen from having to continuously repeat calling in, making the complaint. So I'm just wondering if it's any way that you can just have rounds, if we could look at that, and I realize that there may need to be more personnel to help do that, but I do know that becomes a problem in terms of citizens having to go back and repeatedly make the complaint.
Sure. Given the size of Davidson County and the areas that we have to cover, it would take quite a few more individuals in order to break the county down into areas that an inspector could handle and keep track of. Because that's a great idea, and I encourage my inspectors, be as proactive as you can within your territory. Identify areas that are problematic so that you can, on a regular basis, go by those areas, and they're trying to do that as best they can. And just this time of year, they can do that more than they can during the summer and the spring, but we are doing that.
This is my last question. What about departments like water and NES? A lot of times when they have to go and work on streets and different things, cars may be in the way. How do you work alongside of them to ensure that things are kept?
They will contact us to let us know. Let's say in the case of Public Works or now NDOT, if there's paving going on, of course they have some authority to move vehicles that are in the way when they're doing paving, and they'll put up notices to let people know. But if they encounter a situation that they feel like might be a property standards issue, they'll let us know that either via email, or sometimes they come in through the hub, and we're aggressive in taking care of that. And we share, we go back and forth, especially we work very, very closely with Metro Water, stormwater, because a lot of times when they're investigating a water situation. It'll actually turn out to be a sewage situation on private property, which they can't deal with, and they'll let us know that immediately. We'll get out there and do dye tests or whatever we need to do to resolve that issue. But we work very closely with our Metro department.
Thank you.
Tom?
Does the system in any way flag multiple complaints to the same location?
At this time, it does not. But so it really depends on the inspector knowing their territories and knowing various addresses. And usually what happens is if a property is more than a couple of times within a 12-month period, as soon as they get that address on their daily, they know that that's a repeat violator. But right now, the system doesn't flag automatically to let us know that.
It doesn't flag automatically, but everything in the county is broken out by parcel. And so if there's been a previous complaint on this parcel, when you pull up that parcel to look at it or to enter a new complaint, you can see every previous complaint that has been entered, when it was. You can then open up that complaint and see all the details of it, how it was resolved.
Yeah, a lot of times the inspector, when they get that daily, they open that up. If they see they look at the most recent RFS case to make sure that that's not something that they've already dealt with. And that way, if it is something they've already dealt with, then we can forego the abatement process. But if it is not, then of course we have to go through the abatement process.
Thank you.
And either to our guest or Lauren, how big is this, where you can't serve a warrant if you don't have a contact? I mean, is that I know it's got to be time consuming just to have follow-up, but how major is that you can't communicate with anyone?
Bill, how many of the warrants come back unserved? Do you have a percentage guess?
It's hard to say. I would say maybe 5%. It's not a huge number.
I would imagine even the sheriff's office has similar type issues with the same. I would imagine repeat offenders would rise to the top of that list.
It is, and it's the same thing about serving any type of lawsuit. It's all due process. They have to be served with a copy of the complaint. And, the deputy goes and knocks on the door. Nobody answers the door. They see the squad car pull up. They don't go to the door. They answer the door, and they're looking for John Smith, and they disavow that they're John Smith. The deputy has to walk away. It's a difficult process, and after a couple of attempts, then we try to utilize private process servers, people in plain clothes. Sometimes we can get service that way, and if all else fails, we can serve by mail. We try.
Thank you. That's good.
And I'll just point out something that Terry actually pointed out to me, is that it does say that at least in our sample of the 60 cases, 13, which is about 22%, were open because of, and that was just in our small sample, were open because of the warrant.
Okay. Good conversation. Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
As I told you, she was gonna come, but we went too fast.
Thank you.
Okay, the next audit that we have on the plate is audit of the Nashville Government Pension Investments. I want to recognize Michelle Bosch. She is the Metropolitan Treasurer. This was complex audit subjects. We really appreciate the support we got from those guys. Also, want to recognize Seth Hatfield. He was the the principal auditor who did the work. I appreciate the work he did. He's actually on paternity leave. He's on his way up here, but he had a doctor's appointment and is just trying to get up here. So we appreciate his dedication to try to get up here. And he did a really good job for us on this audit. But we did this audit for obvious reasons. We have a lot of money in our pension plan. It's close to $4 billion in it. It's something very important to our employee base. It's one of our major recruiting tools. And if you've looked in the media on public pensions over the last 15 years, they've been in the media, and it's not been overly flattering. The biggest issue being that they haven't been funded properly, and so what ends up happening, your employees start to retire, and there's not enough money in there to actually make the pension payments. We don't have that problem here. The last time, and keep me honest here, guys, the last I saw was like 93% funded, so,
115 now. 115.
Okay, well, it's even better. So we're in good shape in that regards. But the tenor of this audit you can put into two different categories. The first has to do with, are the objectives of the pension plan as outlined by the investment policy, are they being met? And then the second bucket's going to be best practices. There's a lot of information out there on pensions. Seth did a really good job of going out there, looked at GFOA, their standards on how you should manage and govern a pension plan, and then compared that to what we had. In terms of what we found, the good part, it is actively managed, actively monitored. Seth, he looked at a lot of the investment committee meetings. They do meet. They're engaged. He was looking, one thing that's really important is that the information that's going to your governing body, which is the investment committee, is that that information is accurate, that they're getting good information. You can't make good decisions without good information. So what he did, he looked at the key information within the report that was being presented, tied it back to source documents, looked at key benchmarks. In terms of observations, we had 5 observations, which led to 6 recommendations. And I'm going to start with the ones that are at least the easiest for me to explain, and the ones that may need better dialogue we'll say to the end. The first has to do with doing an experience study. You know what that is? The basic gist of a pension plan is you're investing money now so that you can pay your employees later when they retire. And so to figure out what you have to invest now can get tricky. So what you do is you hire an actuary to come in, and they have certain assumptions. They're looking at things like, what's the rate of return going to be? What's your employee turnover rate going to be? What are salaries going to look like? What's the mortality rate going to look like? And it's real important that you get those assumptions correct, because that dictates what you put into your, what you're investing into your pension plan, which will determine later on if you can pay your employees or not. Best practices would say that you want to have somebody independently coming in and looking at that, those actuarial assumptions, just to make sure they're not too far off ranch. Now, they did one back in 2017, but it was done by the same actuary that does our assumptions. So that's good. I mean, it's good that they did that, but it would be better to have an independent person coming in and looking at those assumptions. The second observation had to do with the investment policy. And what the investment policy is, that's kind of your, it's kind of what your guiding document is on your objectives of the pension plan, what you can invest in, what you can't invest in. Here's Seth. Basically, the GFOA had 10 different components to what you wanted to see in the investment policy. We had 4 of them. 6 of them either weren't in there or we needed to beef them up. They're in the report, but it's basically stuff like make sure you define your roles and responsibilities and who's responsible for what. Make sure you've got internal control statements in there, segregation of duties statements in there, reporting requirements. Now, again, they had good reports going to the investment committee, but it'd be good to put that into your investment policy, that sort of thing. The third observation had to do with the investment committee and training. Now, investments, that's a pretty tricky, sophisticated area, and it's changing all of the time. So it's real important that you stay on top of things. So one of the best practices, one of the recommendations is that annually you go in and you assess the skill sets that your investment committee has, and then you kind of get them up to speed on whatever it is they need to get up to speed on. Because again, that change, the environment changes quite a bit. The fourth had to do with private equity. Now, one thing that's really important in a pension plan is your asset allocation. And so that's basically saying, okay, I've got my pot of money. It sets parameters on what you can invest in. So whether it's stocks, fixed income, whatnot. Seth did a really good job of going in there and looking not only at our plan, but also pulling plans across the country, public plans, and he subdivided, it's in the report, where you're looking at all the public pension plans and then just the ones that kind of fall within our bucket. There was one allocation classification where we're way outside of our, at least in our investment policy, which are private equity. Our investment policy says it needs to be between 5 and 15%. It's gone as high as 23%. I think the average throughout the scope of the audit was 20%. Now, keep in mind, there's a couple of reasons that we're into this, we're over allocated in this area. One, private equity has performed well relative to other asset allocations. So if here's your pie, and this is your, your private equity, if it's doing better than everything else, it's going to automatically get bigger. The second thing is it's not as easy to shift private equity around as some other assets, because you have to basically, Michelle can explain this better than I can, but basically you have to reduce your future obligations. Our point is, the investment committee is aware of it. Private equity is more risky than some other investment allocations. We're just saying you've got a fourth to a fifth of our assets in that one particular asset class, and you need to either get back into alignment with what the investment policy states, or you need to have something better documented within your investment policy on what you're acceptable.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. On that right there, the audit's not saying this allocation is high or low. The audit's not saying that it's proper or improper based upon fiduciary responsibility or the, projections. It's pointing out there's an investment policy properly approved, and this is outside that.
Right, we're not qualified risk.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
We're not going to second guess.
You're auditing to the investment policy. Was the
Right.
investment policy approved according to the rules? And here we are, and all of a sudden we might have, so that's kind of what the audit's saying. It's just,
Yes.
It's outside the investment policy, which the benefits board already knew that, I'm sure, so.
Yeah, they were aware of it, and thank you for bringing that, because that is the important point. We're not going to second guess the expertise of the people that are making these investments, but we are just saying that you're outside your tolerance level in terms of your investment policy, and when you look at our allocation range relative to.
To peers.
Yeah, it's out there, so.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to, I wasn't saying that's what you're saying, I was asking if that's what you.
No, that's a good point. Thank you for highlighting that. The last one has to do with staffing within the Treasury Department. And this really has to do with, do we have enough resources to adequately manage a $4 billion plan? And it goes back to like in the investment policy where you're defining your roles and responsibilities. Now, your key players in this, you've got the investment committee, they're your governing body, and then they're assisted by the Office of the Treasurer. The Office of the Treasurer has two employees that are dedicated to that. One's a finance manager, one's a finance officer too. Then over here you have a consultant. Basically, they've got a team of people that vet the different investment options and whatnot, and then all that's presented to the investment committee who will approve any additions to the plan. There's a close relationship, and so sometimes you can blur those relationships. And so, like the finance manager, for example, or one of the people in the Office of the Treasurer, they're helping to select or determine what investments go to the consultant. The consultant is looking at them. They do have a team that's vetting them. But there's some traveling that's going on, and we didn't see anything out of the ordinary or funny going on. We're not saying that whatsoever. But there's a risk factor. Anytime you're traveling and you're investing money, fund managers are putting on different conferences or whatnot, and you're going there to learn about the different investments, it's just even the appearance of a conflict of interest. You want to try to avoid that. But what we're saying is do a benefit cost analysis to see we need to increase staffing within the Treasurer's office, kind of spread that stuff out, or just making sure we have enough people and enough staff to adequately manage the pension plan. Does that make sense?
So is it one pension plan, or do we have multiple? I mean, I know that, you have a pension plan at some time, and you might have to adopt another one after so many years because you change it and all of those things. Do we have?
There's one main one. You keep me honest on this one. I know there's a teacher's one.
So we have technically 6. We have the original city pension, which is closed, the original county pension, which is closed, the original teacher's pension, which is also closed. There was a metro-wide pension that came about post the 50s up to early 90s that also closed. So there are, on fiduciary basis, there are considered separate buckets of funds, but from our perspective, we manage the funds as a collective. And so the investment committee and all of those managing bodies that oversee those individual buckets have agreed to follow the same investment.
So do we make sure when we change the plans that we make sure that those who may have been under one other plan still benefits pretty much at the same level if they are now, even though they may have retired 20 years ago, they still receive the same benefit?
Yes, well, in terms of pension returns, is that what you mean?
Well, the thing of it is that if someone retired in 1990, and now the cost of living in Nashville has been exorbitant, so the pension that they get would now be completely unacceptable or insufficient for them to be able to maintain a cost of living. So just wondering if we go back to make sure that it is giving them the type of pension that they need to be able to live in today's world.
So I will say that's probably an HR question. We strictly oversee the investment process. But from what I understand, the pension benefits are set, and I don't think they're changed post, especially with closed funds.
Wow. So,
I'm Janine Kaufman. Hello, everybody. So I'm new, for those of you I haven't met, and just recently joined Metro about 4 months ago. So generally under a pension plan is a defined benefit plan, which means the benefit is defined by the actual plan document. So once a plan closes, that benefit definition is closed as well. To your point, there is not necessarily an adjustment to go back and say, okay, well, that's not sufficient anymore, because it is, the benefit itself is defined by the plan document, and unless the plan document is changed, that benefit isn't changed either. So if it's closed, it's closed. Does that make
it does,
explain that?
but I'm wondering if it's something that we can do, especially since we're doing so well. You know, if this is an opportunity for us to do something that would be beneficial. I mean, I just think of,
To Michelle's point, so all what we've heard so far is accurate, but most of the defined benefit systems have COLAs, or cost of living adjustments, within them. That is an HR question that I might be towing the line of what I can say as finance director versus member of this board, so stop me whenever. But we can follow up with you and get, for each of those tiers, what is the COLA? Is it something that is defined within the contribution? Is it something the benefits board has voted on? Because I'm with you, I can't believe that since the 90s there hasn't been a COLA. I'm sure it has occurred. I just,
Right.
in the 4 minutes I've been here, I don't know that detail, but I'm sure we can get it from HR for you.
great, thank you.
Now, you mentioned quite a few plans have closed. What's open?
So we have one fund or plan that's open. We just call it, it's just Plan B, and it's the largest one. It's the one that has been active since the 90s, and it incorporates about 10,000 employees now.
Okay. Now, does Metro have a corresponding public 401K, whatever they?
Yes, we do. We
and
have.
When
we
was
have
that started?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
the answer.
It was probably started to supplement or to kind of redirect a little bit away from the pension to more of a, again, the private sector's 401K. Is that correct?
Well, let me
And-
clarify.
and there's a matching-
There's no city match or Metro match.
There's no match,
It's just a
okay.
voluntary 457 plan that we
Okay.
could contribute in.
So this amount that's in all these funds, $4 billion, so it's growing and not necessarily shrinking as the payments go out.
Yes, that's the goal in perpetuity.
Yeah, so the obligations continue to rise, so, okay. Because a lot of times when you close, all of a sudden it just starts stepping down.
Yeah, and that's
and
the
it kinda
case for
goes
the
low.
other ones. You know, as life expectancy decreases, and so the liability decreases as well. But with the fund that's open now, we have a 30-year kind of, life plan.
Gotcha. And who are the major partners in this? Who are our major consultants? Either, the actuary, the investment advisor. Are there 4 or 5 players that
So
working
we
with
use
Metro?
Finley, who's the actuary. They're local, and they review they provide the assumptions for the entire pension and the basis for our investment plan. We use NEPC as a financial advisor, and they serve as a financial advisor to the entire investment committee and the treasurer's office in terms of asset allocation, investments, and then, of course, there's the investment committee that oversees all of that.
Okay, thank you. Were you through with your report?
I'm finished. Unless y'all have any
Kind of
other
interrupted
questions.
you. And as far as, we have the outside auditors here, what's your scope of work as it relates to the pension and obligations? That all wrapped into the overall?
Oh, yeah, it definitely does.
Okay.
And we not only are we looking at the actuarial reports, we're doing census data to make sure the underlying information is correct that the actuary is using. So it's a big number that we look at a lot.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, John. Are we down to 4?
Yes, sir. Next, we have our ongoing projects. As you can see in the workbook, the first table that's in there is just basically where we are right now. As far as what audits we've closed, as well as what's going on right now. Our audit goal is 17 audits to be issued within the plan year. We're currently at 11 that have been issued, and 1 is in draft. We also have 1 investigation that's currently in draft that will hopefully be presented at the next meeting. We also, as you see, we have quite a few follow-up audits that are open right now. We're slowly starting to incorporate those into the work that we do, and layering them on the other audits that we're doing at the same time. The other thing that I'll draw attention to is that we've had 14 hotline calls so far this year. If you've seen the past few years, it's been very low. About 4 months ago, we started using Hub Nashville as an alternative way for people to report concerns of fraud, waste, and abuse. Many of the ones that we've gotten have been referred to the departments because not necessarily it's falling under what we would normally investigate, but we are encouraged by the fact that people are starting to recognize it and starting to use it as we continue to try and build up that part of our office. And on the next page, you can see our actual audit plan for the year and how far we've gone along in that. We're moving along as expected, kicking off new audits each week, and so hopefully we should be able to complete the audit plan this year. Are there any questions on the audit?
Any requests for changes?
Not yet, no. If there's no questions, then I'll move on to the recommendation implementation on the next page. All of the
Thank you.
audits that had recommendations that were due within the past, since the last meeting, have X's next to them. All but 2 have reported those recommendations as implemented. We did have 2 recommendations that requested a revised dates. These both came out of the Department of Finance Procurement Division. And it was just a matter of COVID, and the pandemic has kind of slowed down their ability to do things. One being submitting an application for accreditation. Just transitioning staff, it's not allowed them to submit the application, but it's in progress. The second one being proposing wording to the Procurement Standards Board, but the board hasn't met recently for them to actually do that because of COVID. So it's a matter of waiting on that. So they have revised dates that they've put in place, and have requested to be able to change that. But other than that, everybody else has implemented them. Oh, and one other thing that I will point out, because we're excited about this, there is the occupational safety audit that's been on this since 2017. It has 23 open recommendations. When this audit was issued, the implementation dates were listed as undetermined because the overarching recommendation was to move occupational safety from legal under HR to a program within HR. That required a change in budget, and that required legislation to move the program. That has finally happened, and last week we met with the new lead in HR who will be over occupational safety and went through some of these recommendations. He's very excited about the recommendations because it's going to help him set up his program. So these will finally start to have movement on them, and he is optimistic that it can hopefully be done within the next year. So hopefully those will start to slowly dwindle down as time goes on. Are there any questions on implementation? Okay. Next, we have our budget. The budget's in there. We're at 19% as of the end of the first quarter. On track to be within budget. We don't foresee any issues with it. If there's any questions on that. Okay. And the last thing is our staffing. We are excited to announce that we finally filled our 2 open positions that have been frozen for a while. We hired 2 Auditor 1s, Elizabeth Andrews and Jessica Henderson. They started back in August and are starting to get their understanding of what we do and to jump onto projects, and we are excited to have them as part of our staff and to finally be at full staff.
You have a staffer named Innocent?
Yes, he is.
Appropriate for an auditor.
And he has a very calm demeanor. He's okay. That's all that we have.
Okay. Any other items need to be discussed before we adjourn the public meeting? I understand we need an executive session. Anything else? So I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then the public meeting is adjourned. Turn this off and get ready for the executive session.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.